A very good morning to all of you. Today we will be discussing the topic reference and revision, which is a part of our unit 4.
Section 395 of the Code of Criminal Procedure enables the criminal court to state a case, setting out its opinion and the reasons, and refer the same for the decision of the High Court. In general, reference may be defined as an action of mentioning or sending of a matter for a decision or consideration to some authority. So, reference can be defined as an act of sending or directing to another for information with regard to a case or matter for the purpose of eliciting an authoritative pronouncement thereupon. Section 395 of the Code contemplates two types of references. One reference is provided under subsection 1 and the other under subsection 2. Now, when a reference is made under subsection 1 by a subordinate court to the High Court, for making such a reference, the following conditions are necessary. And we can look at the conditions as: firstly, a case must be pending before the court making the reference. The court making the reference must be satisfied that the determination of that case involves a question as to the validity of any act, ordinance, or regulation, or any provision contained in an act, ordinance, or regulations. The determination of validity of any such act, ordinance, regulation, or any provision thereof must be necessary for the disposal of the case. The court making the reference must be of the opinion that such act, ordinance, regulation, or any provision thereof is invalid or inoperative. Until the date of reference, the act, the ordinance, regulation, or any such provision thereof must not have been declared as invalid by the High Court to which that court is subordinate, or by the Supreme Court. A mere plea by the accused that the act is ultra vires will not suffice. Now, here the legal position is very clear that the subordinate court should only make a reference to the High Court when it is satisfied that a case pending before it involves a real or substantial question of law as to the validity of any act or regulation. The court shall also set out its opinion and give reasons in support thereof while making a reference. The subordinate court cannot make a reference on the ground that a different view of law was taken by some other High Court. It must follow the law laid down by the High Court to which that court is subordinate. Subsection 2 of Section 395 comes into play when a question of law arises in a case pending before the Court of Session or a metropolitan magistrate. And either case it is he who finds himself unable to decide that question of law, or if it thinks that the matter is so important that the opinion of the High Court should be obtained thereon. So a Court of Session or a metropolitan magistrate may, if it thinks fit in any case pending before it, that the provisions of such subsection 1 do not apply, then it may refer the decision of the High Court on any question of law arising in the hearing of such case. Now, while making the reference to the High Court under subsection 1 or subsection 2, pending the decision of the High Court thereon, the court may either commit the accused to jail or release him on bail to appear when called upon. Now, when a question is being referred to the High Court shall pass such order thereon as it thinks fit, and shall cause a copy of such order to be sent to the court by which the reference was made. And the court shall dispose of the case conformably to the said order. The High Court may also direct by whom the cost of such reference shall be paid. The object of revision is to confer upon superior criminal courts a kind of paternal or supervisory jurisdiction in order to correct miscarriage of justice arising from misconception of law, irregularity of procedure, neglect of proper precautions, of apparent harshness of treatment which has resulted on the one hand in some injury to the due maintenance of law and order, and on the other hand some undeserved hardship to individuals. The purpose of revision is to enable the revisional court to satisfy itself as to the correctness, legality, or propriety of any finding, sentence, or order recorded or passed, and as to the regularity of any proceedings of the inferior criminal court. The revisional jurisdiction of the court is seen to be derived from three sources. Firstly, from section 397 to 401 of CRPC. Secondly, section 227 of the Constitution of India. And third, the power to issue the writ of certiorari. In cases where no appeal has been provided by law, or in cases where the remedy of appeal has for any reason failed to secure justice, the criminal procedure provides for another kind of review, that is revision. Revision lies both in pending and decided cases, and it can be filed before a High Court or a Court of Session. Very wide discretionary powers have been conferred on the Session Court and the High Court. Referring to section 397 of the Code, which provides for calling for records to exercise powers of revision. Subsection 1 of this section gives power to the High Court and the Session Judge to call for and examine the record of any proceeding before any inferior court within its or his local jurisdiction. The purpose of examination of record is to satisfy about firstly, the correctness, legality, or propriety of any finding, sentence, or order recorded or passed by such inferior court, or second, the regularity of any proceeding of such inferior court. Now, what we can see in this section is the ground to call records for inferior criminal courts are where the finding, sentence, or order is illegal or improper, or where the proceedings are irregular. Now, while exercising power conferred by this subsection, the High Court or the Session Judge may direct the execution of any sentence or order be suspended. And if the accused is in confinement, then he may be released on bail or on his own bond pending the examination of the record. This section confers very wide powers upon the High Court and the Session Judge. Under this section, not only the correctness and the legality of any finding, sentence, or order is reviewed, but even the regularity of proceedings may be examined. This section empowers to examine not only the correctness and legality, but even propriety of any finding, sentence, or order. But the power conferred by this section should be exercised in exceptional cases only when there is a manifest error of point of law or flagrant miscarriage of justice. The scope of revisional jurisdiction is limited and discretionary. Interlocutory orders. Now, these are orders which are not final in nature. If an order is not a final order, then it would be an interlocutory order. So, the term interlocutory order in section 397 subsection 2 has been used in a restricted sense, not in very broad or artistic sense. It merely denotes orders of a purely interim or temporary nature which do not decide or touch upon the important rights or liabilities of the parties. Any order which substantially affects the right of the accused or decides certain rights of the parties cannot be said to be an interlocutory order, because that would be against the very object of section 397 subsection 2 of the code. Now, whether an order is an interlocutory order or not, it has to be judged from the point of view of the person seeking revision. For example, an order directing issuance of process is not purely interlocutory and revisional jurisdiction may be exercised against the same. Or the magistrate's order of discharge of an accused on the basis of police report is not an interlocutory order. On the other hand, an order directing temporary custody of property is an interlocutory order and it is not revisable under section 397 subsection 2 of the code. An order of magistrate refusing to summon a witness is also an interlocutory order. So, in deciding whether the order challenged in the interlocutory or not, as for section 397, the sole test is not whether such order was passed during the interim stage. The test is whether by holding the objections raised by a party, it would result in culminating the proceedings. And if so, any order passed on such objection would not be merely interlocutory in nature as envisaged in section 397 of the code. A second revision under section 397 subsection 3 is not maintainable and non-competent. So if he either makes an application to the High Court or to the Session Judge, then no further application by the same person shall be entertained by either of them, that is either the High Court or the Session Judge. Now, a question comes that whether the section 482 of the code that deals with the inherent powers of High Court is a substitute to file a second revision under section 397 subsection 3. Now, answering the same in Shakuntala Devi and others versus Chambru Mahato and another, it provided that the object of second division was to avoid frivolous litigation, but at the same time, if the Court of Session has decided a revision application, the doors of the High Court is not closed in special cases and the bar under section 397 subsection 3 could be lifted. So what we can say is, yes, the High Court may entertain a petition under section 482 and it will not be subject to the prohibition under section 397 subsection 3. But the same bar is to be lifted in appropriate cases. The concept of intermediate order was elucidated in the Madhulimai case by contradistinguishing a final order and an interlocutory order. The court in this case laid down the principle that an intermediate order is one which is interlocutory in nature, but when reversed, it has the effect of terminating the proceedings and thereby resulting in a final order. Taking the example of two such intermediate orders. First, an order taking cognizance of an offence and summoning an accused. And second, an order for framing charges. On the prima facie, these orders are interlocutory in nature, but when an order taking cognizance and summoning an accused is reversed, it has the effect of terminating the proceedings against that person, resulting it in a final order in his favor. Similarly, an order for framing charges, if reversed, has the effect of discharging the accused person and resulting in a final order in his favor. Therefore, an intermediate order is one which is passed in a certain way, the proceedings would terminate, but if passed in another way, the proceedings would continue. The High Court or the Session Judge under Section 398 on examining any record under Section 397 or otherwise may direct a Chief Judicial Magistrate or any other judicial magistrate subordinate to him to make an inquiry into any complaint which has been dismissed under Section 203 or Section 204, or into the cases in which a person accused of an offence has been discharged. Now, in these cases, either the Chief Judicial Magistrate may himself make an inquiry into the same, or he may direct any subordinate magistrate to make further inquiry into the case. And the proviso to Section 398 further provides that the court shall not make any direction under this section for an inquiry into the case in which a person has been discharged, unless the person had an opportunity of showing cause why such direction should not be made. Now, the word discharge under Section 398 means the discharge of an offence relating to the charge within the meaning of Section 227, 239, 245 and 249 of the Code. Session Judge's power of revision. The Session Court has all the powers which may be exercised by the High Court under subsection 1 of Section 400. The revisal jurisdiction of the Session Court is placed on par with the High Court. That means we can say that both the High Court and the Court of Session in matters of revision exercises concurrent jurisdiction. In revision, the aggrieved party is being given an option whether to choose any of the two forums for filing the revision. Either he can choose the High Court or he can choose the Court of Session. The additional session judges may also exercise the powers of a session judge in matters of revision in respect of cases which may be transferred to them by or under any general or special order by the session judge. Section 401 provides for the High Court's power of revision, and Section 401 subsection 1 authorizes the court to exercise power of revision suo motu apart from the application from a party. The complainant here is entitled to move a revision even if the state does not. The Allahabad High Court in Om Pratap Singh vs. State has observed that the revisional power of this court under Section 397 and 401 is a kind of supervisory jurisdiction in order to prevent miscarriage of justice arising from the misconception of law or irregularity of procedure committed by the subordinate courts. These two sections do not confer unfettered jurisdiction on this court for reappraisal of evidence. In fact, the revisional power of this court is to see that whether justice is done in accordance with the recognized rules of criminal jurisprudence, and the subordinate courts do not exceed their jurisdiction or abuse their powers vested in them under the Code of Criminal Procedure. In State versus Appa Balu, it is being held that ordinarily it is not open for the High Court to interfere with the concurrent findings of the court below, especially by reappreciating the evidences in its revisional jurisdiction. And in cases where two views are reasonably possible and the court has taken the view in favor of the accused, then the High Court should be slow in interfering in the exercise of its revisional jurisdiction suo motu. Section 401 is a provision enabling the revisional court to exercise all powers of an appellate court subject to the following limitation. Firstly, it cannot convert a finding of acquittal into one of conviction, and second, it can tender pardon to the accused for making him an approver in a pending case, which it cannot do in appeal. In the case of Chandrababu versus State, the Supreme Court proceeded to consider the scope of revisional jurisdiction of High Court. The Supreme Court observation as follows. In quotes, we shall dwell upon the issue whether the High Court in exercise of the revisional jurisdiction should have adverted to the merits of the case in extenso. As the factual matrix would reveal, the learned single judge has dwelled upon in great detail on the statement of the witnesses to arrive at the conclusion that there are remarkable discrepancies with regard to the facts and there is nothing wrong with the investigation. In fact, he has noted certain facts and deduced certain conclusions which, as we find, are beyond the exercise of revisional jurisdiction. It is well settled in law that the inherent as well as the revisional jurisdiction should be exercised cautiously. Normally, a revisional jurisdiction should be exercised on a question of law. However, when factual appreciation is involved, then it must find place in the class of cases resulting in a perverse finding. Basically, the power is required to be exercised so that justice is done and there is no abuse of the power by the court. Unquote. In the case of Krishnan versus Krishnaveni, the court held that the inherent power of the High Court is not one conferred by the court but one which the High Court already has in it and which is preserved by the court. Ordinarily, in the matter of exercise of power of revision by any High Court, Section 397 and Section 401 are read together, and Section 397 gives power to the High Court to call for the records, also as suo motu power under Section 401 to exercise the revisional power on the grounds mentioned therein. That is, to examine the correctness, legality or propriety of any finding, sentence or order, recorded or passed, and as to the regularity of any proceeding of such inferior court, and to dispose of the revision in the manner indicated under Section 401 of the Code. High Court has the power to act suo motu where punishment appears to be inadequate. Provisions for appeal against inadequacy of sentence does not take away the High Court's power to enhance sentence suo motu in exercise of its revisional power. High Court under Section 397 can call for and examine records of proceedings before the trial court to exercise its revisional power. High Court's power of revision under Section 401 includes the power conferred on a court of appeal under Section 386 to enhance or to reduce the sentence. 401 subsection 2 contemplates a situation where a person may not be an accused person before the court below one who might have been discharged. Therefore, if the revisional court, after exercising jurisdiction under Section 401, wants to pass an order to the prejudice of such a person, it is necessary that the said person should be given an opportunity of hearing, but it does not contemplate any contingency of hearing of any person who is neither a party in the proceeding in the court below, nor is expected at any stage, even after the revision, to be joined as a party. In Ganesha versus Sharanappa, the Supreme Court held in quotes, subsection 3 of Section 401 in terms provides that nothing in Section 401 shall be deemed to authorize a High Court to convert a finding of acquittal into one of conviction. The aforesaid subsection, which places a limitation on the powers of the revisional court, prohibiting it from converting a finding of acquittal into one conviction, is itself indicating of the nature and extent of the revisional power conferred by Section 401 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. If the High Court could not convert a finding of acquittal into one of conviction directly, it could not do so indirectly by the method of ordering a retrial. It is well settled by a catena of decisions of this court that the High Court will ordinarily not interfere in revision with an order of acquittal except in exceptional cases where the interest of public justice requires the interference for the correction of a manifest illegality or the prevention of gross miscarriage of justice. The High Court will not be justified in interfering with an order of acquittal merely because the trial court has taken wrong view of the law or has erred in appreciation of evidence. It is neither possible nor advisable to make an exhaustive list of circumstances in which the exercise of revisional jurisdiction may be justified, but decisions of this court have laid down the parameters of exercise of revisional jurisdiction by the High Courts under Section 401 of the Code of Criminal Procedure in an appeal against acquittal by a private party. Unquote. As a finding of acquittal can be converted into conviction in revisional jurisdiction only in exceptional cases. So in K. Chinnaswamy Reddy versus State, the Supreme Court has indicated certain cases in which the High Court may interfere with the finding of acquittal. These cases may be where the trial court has no jurisdiction to try the case but still has acquitted the accused, or where the trial court has wrongly shut out evidence which the prosecution wished to produce, or where the appellate court has wrongly held evidence which was admitted by the trial court to be inadmissible, or where the material evidence has been overlooked either by the trial court or by the appellate court, or where the acquittal is based on a compounding of the offence which is invalid under the law. There are certain cases which are regarded as exceptional case where the finding of acquittal can be converted into conviction by the court in the exercise of its revisional jurisdiction. And when the court is exercising the revisional power for retrial, the court must take into consideration whether there was a fair trial or not. Such an order should be passed only in extraordinary situation. Means with regard to the first trial, it was founded that it was a mock trial. and direction for retrial would be justified. Section 402 deals with the power of the High Court to withdraw or transfer revision cases. The provision of Section 402 of the Code makes it clear that the legislature conferred the revisional jurisdiction concurrent to the High Court as well as to the Court of Sessions and left the option with the party or parties. In case where two or more revisions are preferred, one or more before the High Court or others before the Court of Session, it is for the High Court to decide, having regard to the general convenience of the parties and the importance of the question involved, which of the two courts should finally dispose of the application for revision. And when the High Court decides that all the application for revision should be disposed of by itself, the High Court shall direct that the application for revision pending before the session judge be transferred to itself. And where the High Court decides that it is not necessary for it to dispose of for the application for revision, it shall direct that the application for revision be transferred to the session judge. Section 403 provides that it is optional for the court to hear parties, and Section 405 provides that the High Court's order to be certified to lower court. Thank you. Have a nice day. And for your questions and observations, you can write to me at my email ID. That is gautamgupta@mpednlu.ac.in.